She told me to stop acting like a victim. But when I found out my fiancé slept with her ex, I left her an empty apartment and an envelope full of proof she'll never forget. My name is Ryan, I'm 29, and a few months ago my life took a turn I'll never forget. One evening, Alyssa, my fiancé 27, looked me right in the eye and said, "Why are you acting like a victim? You knew I was still figuring things out." I remember feeling my stomach drop. I asked her straight out why she was sleeping with her ex, and instead of getting angry or begging for answers, I just said, "Thanks for the clarity." That was the moment I decided everything was over. She thought I'd come crawling back, apologizing and pleading for us to make it work. But what she didn't know was that the next time she walked into our apartment, it would be completely empty, except for an envelope sitting on the table holding printed photos of her own betrayal. There's a very specific second in some relationships when you realize you're not their priority anymore. You're not the person they think about first or even second. You're just a safe, convenient backup for when the fun options run out. For me, that second came on a Wednesday night at exactly 11:47 p.m. My phone lit up with an incoming FaceTime call from Megan, Alyssa's maid of honor. Megan wasn't known for being careful or quiet, so I assumed she might just have a silly question about the wedding or want to chat about table settings. Instead, when I answered, I was greeted by deafening music, flashing neon lights, and Megan's face, red from alcohol. She was laughing loudly at something off-screen, yelling over the noise. Then she swung the camera around, and my heart froze. There was Alyssa, my fiancée, sitting comfortably on another man's lap. Not just sitting casually, not just leaning on him. No, she was kissing him like they were the only people in the bar, one hand resting on his neck, the other holding her drink. She looked completely at ease, like this wasn't the first time she'd been in that position with him. My eyes were glued to the screen, waiting for any kind of explanation. Megan realized too late what she had just shown me, quickly turning the camera back to herself and saying, "Oh, haha, it's just a dare from the Bachelorette games. You know how it is." But I did know, and I knew exactly what I was looking at. This wasn't some 2-second dare where you laugh it off afterward. This was the kind of kiss that lasts long enough to make people uncomfortable. I didn't argue with her. I didn't ask any questions. I just ended the call without saying another word. Then I sat there in the silence, staring at the black TV screen, listening only to my own breathing. My mind played back the last few weeks, the late nights at the venue, the bridal planning that always ended after midnight, the just drinks with the girls' excuses. The wedding was already paid for, the venue booked, the dress fitted. But the only thing Alyssa seemed truly interested in was her extra activities outside our relationship. I didn't feel anger right away. What I felt was clarity, a calm realization that the relationship I thought we had didn't exist anymore. She had already stepped out of it. I just hadn't caught up yet. When I replayed the scene from the bar in my head, it wasn't even the kiss that stuck with me the most. It was how comfortable she looked doing it. Like she had already decided she didn't need to hide anything from me anymore. That was when the pieces fell into place. The sudden secrecy around her phone, the defensiveness over harmless questions, the out-of-nowhere "don't act like you own me" comments. And right then, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't argue or demand explanations. She wanted freedom. She could have it fully and without warning. That thought made me feel lighter than I had in weeks. By morning, it wasn't just an idea. It was a plan. 2 days later, the timing was perfect. Alyssa told me she was going on one last weekend of freedom with her bridal squad back to Nashville. I helped carry her bag down to the Uber. She kissed me on the cheek, smiled sweetly, and I told her, "Have fun." She had no idea I meant it permanently. The second her car disappeared around the corner, I got to work. I packed my suitcases with everything that was mine: clothes, important papers, electronics I paid for, the couch I bought, the coffee machine my mom gifted me, and yes, every kitchen knife in the apartment. Not out of pettiness, they were mine, and she could buy her own. I left her things exactly where they were. By midday, my friend Eric showed up with his truck. He didn't ask questions. We worked quietly for hours, moving my life out piece by piece until the place looked the same but felt hollow. Then came the final step. I collected every photo and video I could find of her and the guy from the bar. From friends' stories, tags, and posts she probably assumed I'd never see. I printed each one in full color, placed them in a large envelope, and wrote on the front in black marker, "Evidence of your last weekend of freedom." I put that envelope on the dining table, next to the open engagement ring box, with a lamp casting a soft light over both. Then I locked the door and left for good. When Alyssa came back Sunday night, she walked into silence. No bags by the door, no toothbrush in the bathroom, no sign I had ever lived there, just the envelope and the ring. She blew up my phone with calls, texts, anger, apologies, and finally desperation. I didn't respond. The next morning, I sent one final message. "Alyssa, I'm glad you got your last weekend of freedom. Consider it permanent. Please lose this number." Then I blocked her, Megan, and even the guy from the bar. For the first time in weeks, my phone was silent. I settled into my new apartment. Smaller, quieter, and completely mine. No more waiting for excuses. No more wondering who she was with. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need an explanation. She had her freedom. I had my peace. And peace was worth more than any wedding deposit I'd lost. I woke up that first morning in my new apartment with a strange mix of emptiness and relief. The space was bare, the walls a soft off-white, the air quiet in a way I hadn't heard in months. There was no clinking of dishes from the kitchen, no humming from the bathroom, no voice calling my name from another room. And you know what? Felt good. That silence wasn't lonely. It was clean, like breathing after a storm has finally passed. I sat at the small kitchen table with a cup of coffee from the machine my mom had given me, and for the first time in weeks, my hands weren't shaking. I didn't feel the need to check my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for excuses or apologies or lies wrapped in pretty words. Her messages had all been blocked, but that didn't stop my mind from guessing what she was probably doing. I could picture her sitting on the couch in that apartment, staring at the envelope, flipping through the photos, each one a blow she couldn't deflect. I could imagine her trying to call Megan, maybe even blaming her for letting me see the truth. I could almost hear the half-cried, half-angry rants she'd probably post online, those vague quotes about being misunderstood or people giving up too soon. But that wasn't my business anymore. The version of Alyssa I had loved didn't exist now, and the version she had become wasn't someone I wanted to spend my life with. In the days that followed, I started unpacking my boxes slowly. There was no rush. Every item I pulled out and put away felt like a small step toward building a life that was entirely mine. I hung my jackets on the hooks by the door without wondering if she'd complain about the color. I put my books on the shelf without her suggesting I store them in a box because they didn't match the aesthetic. Even cooking felt different. I could make whatever I wanted without a comment about how it wasn't healthy enough or didn't fit the wedding diet. It was the small freedoms that hit me the hardest, because I realized how many little pieces of myself I had been trimming away to keep the relationship peaceful. A week after I moved out, a mutual friend reached out to me. They said Alyssa was really broken up about what happened and regretted her choices. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know if her tears were real or if she was just upset about losing the wedding, the image, the security. Regret doesn't always mean you wish you hadn't done something. Sometimes it just means you wish you hadn't been caught. And in my heart, I knew that even if she could turn back time, she'd still make the same choices, just hide them better. It's strange, but the moment I saw her sitting on that guy's lap in the bar wasn't actually the moment I lost her. Thinking back now, I think I had been losing her for months. In the late nights she spent planning instead of being home. In the guarded way she'd tilt her phone away from me. In the sudden sharpness of her tone when I asked basic questions. That kiss was just the proof my gut had been begging me to acknowledge. The real end had been quiet, almost invisible. The kind of ending you don't notice until you're standing in an empty room, realizing you'd been alone long before you packed your bags. Sometimes people talk about closure like it's a meeting you need to have, a conversation where you finally get all the answers. But I think closure comes when you stop needing those answers at all. I didn't need Alyssa to admit that she slept with her ex more than once. I didn't need her to explain why she did it. I didn't need her to tell me whether the wedding had ever truly meant anything to her. The truth was simple. She made a choice that spoke louder than any apology ever could. And once I understood that, the rest didn't matter. Now, months later, my life looks completely different. My apartment is still modest, but it feels like home in a way our place never did. I've got a couple of plants on the windowsill that somehow haven't died yet, a stack of books on the coffee table that I actually have time to read, and a small circle of friends who know they can drop by without stepping into drama. I'm not in a rush to date again, but when I do, I know I'll be bringing a version of myself that's stronger, clearer, and less willing to ignore the red flags I once smiled through. I still remember locking that door for the last time, the cool metal of the key in my hand, the soft click as it turned, the quiet hallway outside. I didn't look back then, and I haven't looked back since. Because when someone shows you they don't value you, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away before you forget how to value yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I appreciate you listening until the end. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to choose between holding on to someone who hurt you and walking away to protect your peace, always choose your peace. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more stories like this one.